Hi everyone, here we are with Module 4. We're focusing in on critical theories and then privilege and oppression. So just as we noted with the social construction paradigm, critical theories also emerged under the larger umbrella of postmodernism as a critique to empiricism and to the thinking coming out of the Enlightenment. So just want to situate that. And you'll notice with the image that we are paying attention with critical theories to issues of power relations and how our interactions every day become structured into our organizations and our larger social institutions. So some of the key tenets. This might feel a little challenging to wrap your head around, but try to just roll with this for a little bit and see if it makes sense after a couple minutes. So, as we are interacting with each other, and we do these practices with each other of how we are with each other day in and day out, with the roles and the positions that we hold, critical theories say that over time, those practices become structured, that they are the very institutions that we have in our society. So, yes, we have the bricks and mortar of buildings, but really what makes institutions social structures are these patterns that have real impacts. So we socially construct them, but because we have done it so repetitively and they become structured over time, they become very solid and expected, that they feel as if they are reality. They feel as if they are true. The other key tenet is the interdependence. So once we have institutions with clear roles and positions, who does what and how we respond and who can make decisions, that those structured patterns end up constraining our sense of agency. They put in some limits about how we can really be with each other because we would transgress or step over certain boundaries of what we are to do or not do. So, what we end up having is this interdependence between the patterns that we do with each other that form the structures, and then the way the structures then can limit how we can act. So, therefore, critical theories really look at the notion of power and power relations and how that power shows up in the language we use and the meaning that we ascribe to things and how we think about and distribute material resources, both over time and in specifics. So, micro to macro level with structures. At the same time, critical theories also talk about how can we resist those things that are structured that are not serving us well, that are harming certain groups of people. How can we transform some of these structures? So it is possible to do it, and because things become really solidified, it does require structural change for it to be lasting. So ultimately, critical theories seek to both critique and transform those social structures that are oppressive. So we come to know knowledge by looking at these patterns over time, genealogy, and then looking hierarchically at these relationships between micro interactions and how they're structured at a macro level. So you can think about that like archaeology, doing a big dig into the fine-grained examination. So researchers are just part of what we research, and values are just at the heart of the research questions and the interpretations that we bring to analysis. Because of the nature of this inquiry, we tend to use qualitative methods and in the humanities, historical, interpretive, and analytic approaches. So we tend to bias by also, like social construction, seeing it as a given. Neutrality is not possible or desired. And we specifically name our social position and include ourselves within context when we're engaging in the research. So critical theorists are saying that knowledge really is dependent on who is doing the research. As we said, values are just really at the heart of the inquiry, and we want to develop knowledge for action. We want to enhance the capacity to transform oppressive structures, and we use historical context to be able to situate what we find within this broader picture. So some of the strengths is that this research can illuminate the dynamics of inequity that we have in our society and other oppressions across all our ecological levels. It gives us knowledge about power relationships and then clues about how our so-called reality could be otherwise. And therefore, it's consistent with our profession's alignment with vulnerable populations and our commitment to social justice. Some of the limitations are that by critiquing these structural patterns, those who are in positions of authority within dominant structures will likely be suspicious or question or dismissive of what we are putting forward. And because we are using qualitative methods and other strategies, then those who fund or sanction programs also might not value this work as much if they are looking to see quantitative data. So how to read for this? I want you to start with Tu, who talks about the ways that power can be used, power over and power together, and how each of those can be either productive or limiting. Then if we move into Haslinger, she focuses on the nature of social structures and how those contribute to oppressive practices. Then we're going to move into Foucault, and you have a choice here, reading a primary source of Michel Foucault or reading an article that I wrote based on the same concepts in that Foucault reading. And Foucault does a lot of critiquing of the institutional practices and the ways that they can be harmful or constrain individuals. Then Jamal Aguilar wrote a piece with another colleague where he writes about Pierre Bourdieu and Bourdieu's concept of social capital. And capital is similar to social networks and takes some other forms as well. But social capital is how we can collectively build power and use power to establish and transform things. So then moving into the readings for privilege and oppression, Robin DiAngelo's piece looks at the discourse of individualism in the United States and how that becomes an oppressive discourse that is limiting for us. And then Yoso brings in a discussion about which communities have cultural capital or cultural wealth, and talks about building off of Bourdieu's notion of social capital, the ways in which communities of color have cultural wealth and identify some specific kinds of cultural wealth. And then you can pick one other reading that you would like to look at. So here we go. Let's step into it and enjoy.